Rockstar has finally made the announcement that everyone has been waiting for. No, not GTA 6 or Grand Theft Auto 6, whichever way you call it. But no, it has announced Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy, the definitive edition. The fact that these three games are part of a trilogy is personally news to me. Hi, welcome to Zgadgetreview. So, yes, Rockstar has announced that you will be able to play three Grand Theft Auto games with improved graphics and all these things. Let's start with what this means. This means that we're going to be playing three, one could say, legendary Grand Theft Auto games. We're talking about Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. So we have these three games that are going to be part of this one package called Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy. As I said earlier, I didn't know that this was part of a trilogy. Does that mean that Grand Theft Auto 4, 5, and 6 are part of another trilogy? And if they were part of a trilogy, and so we had Grand Theft Auto 3, right? Then we had Grand Theft Auto Vice City and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, that will make it 4, 5. And then we got Grand Theft Auto 4, and now we have Grand Theft Auto 5. So does Grand Theft Auto 3, 4, and 5 are not part of a trilogy? And Grand Theft Auto Vice City and Grand Theft Auto San Andreas are their own separate games? Like, what's happening? I don't get it, because technically there are 5 games, right? There are 5 games, but if you're counting Grand Theft Auto 3 as number 1, then it makes sense. But because Grand Theft Auto 3 is Grand Theft Auto 3, then this will be Vice City 4, San Andreas 5, and then the one with Nico would have been 6, and then Grand Theft Auto 6 would have been 7. So I'm confused. So if someone can straighten this out for me, tell me in the comment section. So here's a trailer for the game. So we have the things that are supposed to be improved are shadows, weather, reflections. The characters, of course, are being upgraded. The vehicle models are also being upgraded. There is increased draw distance, smoother surfaces, higher resolution textures across buildings, weapons, roads, interiors, and more. Rockstar says that they use Unreal Engine and a completely rebuilt lighting system. The games were remastered by Grove Street Games, which is the studio that actually ported the games to mobile platforms in the past. You're going to be able to get your hands on all 3 games for $60. And that's not a bad price if you are trying to think about the fact that you can buy one game today for the same price. The thing is, here we're talking about 3 games that are between 20 and 17 years old. So Grand Theft Auto 3 launched in 2001, Vice City came out in 2002, and San Andreas came out in 2004. So we're talking about very, very old games. And the fact that they're asking $60 for these very old games, I don't know, it's not the best in my opinion. They could have gotten away by charging $40. That would have been to me a better price for 20 to 17-year-old games, no matter the improvements, okay, than full 60 for these 3 games. And yes, the mechanics in the game are also being improved. The controllers that you use for GTA 5 are going to be used for these games as well. So it's going to kind of modernize the games in that way. So, and it makes sense. I mean, we have people who have grown up playing GTA 5 by now because the game is 7 years old. So it makes sense that they will do that. You cannot have someone who just picked up GTA 5, recently to try and go back and play games from 17, 20 years ago, where the controllers were either too simple or cumbersome. I don't really remember how those games play, and didn't really play them. I think I just played San Andreas for a little bit. So it makes sense that they're doing that. Aiming system is also going to be improved, but these games are actually going to come out in every single platform available. So it's going to come out on PC, it's going to come out on Xbox, PlayStation, all the new Xbox and PlayStation consoles is going to come out on Switch, and eventually it's going to go out on mobile as well. Now, the game will launch digitally only starting on November 11th. If you're getting it on the next-gen consoles, or I guess the current-gen consoles, I keep making that mistake, current-gen consoles, so PS5, Xbox Series X and S, the game is going to target 4K 60 frames per second. Now, if you're a Game Pass member, you are lucky because you'll be able to play GTA San Andreas on the day that it drops via Game Pass, so you won't have to purchase all three in order to play one. So if you're interested in one game to see how it feels, to see how it looks, you can technically play San Andreas via Game Pass for no extra money. Of course, if you want to play any of the other two games, then you're going to have to shell out the $60. But if you are a PS Now member, on December 7th, you'll have access to Grand Theft Auto 3. So if you have PS Now, technically, and Game Pass, you can play 2 out of the 3 games for no extra money. You're going to be missing out on Vice City, which arguably one could say might be the best out of the 3 games, depending on what you like. So, there's that option where you don't actually have to spend $60 in order to play 2 out of the 3 games. Now, the physical editions of the games are going to come out on December 7th. So if you want to wait for the physical edition, that's when they'll be available. Right now, all 3 games are being sold as a whole package. There are rumors that they might be sold individually at a later date. But right now, the package is all 3 for one price. Looking at this trailer, I'm not super impressed with the work that they have done. I mean, granted, we're getting very small snippets of what the game looks like. And to me, it looks very cartoony. It doesn't look as polished as other, remasters have looked. Again, for being 20 years old, 17 years old, the games look really, really good. They look a lot better than they did, of course. But I feel that they went with a cartoony, type of art or improvements in order to mitigate the rough edges that the game might otherwise have. Also saves time and money on the amount of work that you need to do on the games, obviously. And the reason is because this kind of a cartoony type of look forgives a lot of issues that the game might otherwise have. You can hide more using this type of aesthetic in the game. I was hoping to see something, I don't know, to be a little more blown away by it. Again, not that it doesn't have its merits. I just don't think that it looks as good as I think that it could otherwise look. That, of course, is my opinion. But it's not all great news when it comes to the new games. So right now, if you want to buy the original games, you won't be able to. You won't be able to find them anywhere. And the reason is because Rockstar has decided, or Take-Two, whoever is in charge of this, has decided to take the games down. So if you were to try to buy the old versions, the original versions of the game, you won't be able to find them. And that, it's a little bit of a problem, because as much as a cool remaster is, the art direction for these games is completely different than the original. The original games actually look kind of gritty and, and darker. This looks very bright and vivid, which wasn't what the original games looked like. So there is a difference on the art direction of both games. And I feel that getting rid of that original art on those games is a mistake. So if you own those games, consider yourself lucky for now. I mean, never say never. The games might come back at some point on sale. But I actually think and believe that those games won't come out again. It's going to be kind of like the original Star Wars trilogy that you cannot find anywhere anymore because they decided to make all these freaking changes and just, in my opinion, ruin what the movie looked like originally. Oh, let me make this change, so and so fire first and hand first. BS, just leave those things as they are. I believe that eventually the old versions of the games are going to become collector's items. So if you have one, hang on to it, take care of it, put it in like a little container and don't touch it because it might be worth a lot of money one day. As a curious person, I'm a curious person by nature. You kind of want to see what the original looked like. And I think it's a mistake that Rockstar has decided to remove those games from stores because I think that it will actually inspire people to buy the original games to have a source of comparison. So I think that this will have generated interest on the original versions of the game just as much as the remaster versions of the games are generating interest now. I never understand when studios do this to get rid of their original versions of their games as if it's going to take away from the sales of the remaster game. Because I can guarantee you that 90% of people who play GTA 5 who have never played one of these games will go directly for the remaster version over the original version. I don't think that there's going to be cannibalization when it comes to the sales of these games. So why remove them? And this is not a way of preserving gaming history, as people say when they're like, well, the remaster, the game's still there. No, it isn't. It's a different game. The reason why it's remastered is because they made changes to the original game. And if you get rid of the original source, then there's no history to go by. So that's my take on the upcoming Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Remaster Edition. Again, why the hell are they calling it a trilogy? Is beyond me because it was not a trilogy. And if you're going to say, oh, it's because we're putting three games together, putting three things together, that's not a trilogy, does not make. There has to be some sort of reasoning for, a trilogy. A trilogy is a together thing. It's a thing that makes one whole product. You know what I mean. Again, so what do you think about this trilogy? Do you think that the pricing is fair? Do you think that charging $60 for 20-year-old games makes sense? How do you feel about the art direction that they took on this remaster? Let me know in the comment section. Also, let me know anything that I didn't ask. Just because I didn't ask it doesn't mean that you cannot tell me. I have people tell me all the time things that I don't ask. Like someone complained that on my speaker review, I play music. And it's like, well, is that the whole point of a review of speakers? That's it for me. Go ahead and subscribe. Give us a thumbs up. It really helps the channel. Go ahead and hit that bell so you can be alerted every time we have new videos. And thank you very much for watching.